Just the Gemara. Okay, 13a, Gitten, Gemara. Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Masa Mishmei Rav. The Mishnah concludes that if a person says, give $100 to so-and-so, and he passes away, Yidin Lachamiso. You give the $100 even after the person passes away. I mean, the first two cases, by get, Isha and Shtar Shichrur, we say, in get Lachamiso. You cannot, divorce cannot take place after he dies, and the same thing regarding emancipation, what we discussed. But if he says, give money to so-and-so, and then subsequently he dies, although the money was not given, he receives the money. I mean, so the obvious question is, just as the slave went into the estate to the heirs, so the $100 should have gone into the estate to the heirs. So what does one thing have to do with another? It's not his money.
But it's like he's doing the mitzvah after he's dead. That's not shayach.
Om Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Masa Mishmei Derav Hu Shetzvurim Menochim B'Keren Zovis. So Rav Shmuel bar Masa said the name of Rav. Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Masa said the name of Rav. That was speaking with the money could be identified. It's located in a corner. It's gathered and in a corner. So therefore, as a result of that, therefore, the money is transferred. So again, so the Gemara wants to know, by my skin, how was it transferred? If the kinyan was not made, again, it's no different than the slave. The money immediately passes to the heirs. Are we speaking about that the one who gave the command, the charge, he was a healthy man, he says, give so-and-so $100. And then suddenly he passes away. Kitzvur ma'havek. Just because the money can be identified, the 100 which he's referring to, Halo Moshach, the one who he intended to say it should be his, it should be given to him, he never took possession of the 100 of that money. So if he didn't take possession, what happens to the money? The money is the deceased. So if it's his, it passes on to the heirs. So how does this third party take it? El b'shchiv meira. We see a person is on his deathbed. So a person on his deathbed is a special rabbinic enactment that since we're concerned for that he shouldn't be upset, so they said anything that he wants, and we deal with it as if it was fully transacted and it was transferred. So if that's the case, so therefore the recipient doesn't have to make a kinyan. But if that's the case, what do you need svurim? What do you have to identify the specific money? Just saying, give so and so $100, it should be sufficient. Ma'ir svurim kain svurim nami. Even if it's not identified, they're not gathered in a certain specific location. He's not identifying which $100. Why? We rule halacha divrei shchiv meira. The words of a person who's on his deathbed, who's dying, kichsuv surin domi. It's as if it's kosuf. Kosuf means karka is bishtar, right? You acquire fixed property with a document, as if the document was written. That's ksuvin. Of course, metaltalin, there's no document, right? Misurin is referring, it would be metal as if the movables were already passed on to the recipient. The recipient took possession. So if that's the case, what do you need svurim? So we have to understand the case in the Mishnah. Omer Rav Zvid. So Rav Zvid says, L'olam bevari. We're speaking that the one who's dictating and giving the charge that $100 should be given is a healthy person. So he's not. So if that's the case, go back to the question. So the recipient never made a kinyan, right? Says Holo Moshach, he didn't take him in his possession. As Rav Huna said, name Rav, another halacha of Ravs. Dom Rav Huna Rav, monoli biyotcho. Now, you have three parties. You have a person who's in possession of the money. You have the one who's going to receive the money, and you have the one who it's his money who's giving the charge that the money should be given. Those are the three parties here. Okay? Monoli biyotcho. He says to the other person, I have $100 of yours. Teneu lo leploni. He says to the middle person who has the money in his possession, give it to so-and-so. The maimit shloshtan, if they're all three there, kona. Even though the third party, who's going to be the recipient, never physically took possession, based on hefker bez and hefker, the money transfers. It transfers to the third party. As long as all three people are present, when the one who has the money gives the dictate, the charge that it should be given from the one who is in possession to the one to receive it, although he did not take, the third party did not take possession. That's Maimed Shloshnon. Okay? Hefker is an Hefker. We will discuss it. Because Rav Papa gives another answer, and the Gemara is going to discuss why did Rav Papa reject Rav Zvid's approach, and why did Rav Zvid reject Rav Papa? Rav Papa b'shchiv mira. We're speaking about he's on his deathbed. One second. Is the man healthy, or is he on his deathbed? That's the question. No. If he's a healthy person, yeah, you need a kinyan. So you need Maimed Shloshnon to compensate for the kinyan. Well, we'll see. Because they only say Maimed Shloshnon only if the money itself exists. It exists. It has to be similar to a pikadon. Right?
Does that person have to have it with him when he says that? Or does he have it in his bank, in his vault?
Could have it in his vault. Same thing.
But that's what it says.
Right. As long as the money can be identified. Monali biotcha, Rav Papa says, lo b'shchiv mira. We're speaking about a person who's on his deathbed. So if it's on his deathbed, what do you need most svurin? We asked before, what does it have? Why do you have to identify the money? His word is the equivalent of what? Of the transaction? Ucheidach the Rav. There's another position of Rav. The Omer Rav, shchiv mira shama tnu mono leploni. Min chosai. He says, give someone $100 of my possessions. Monaze, if he said this, he identified the $100 nosnin, right? I want you to give that $100 to so and so. Although there was no transaction, his words are the equivalent. Since that's his wishes, it's transferred immediately. No, he says the $100 in my drawer. He's identifying where it is. Wait. Monastam. He says, give him $100 of my money. Ain't nosnin. You don't give. Why? Because Hashina Shem Mona cover of Komer. Because we're not sure which $100 he's referring to. Maybe there's $100 somewhere buried somewhere, and when he said the 100 of mine, it may not be the money you give him may not be what he's intending. What he wants, he's intending should be given to him. So therefore, since there is this concern, we may not be doing what he wants. It's hamotz chevel over raya.
So,
correct.
So according to Rav Papa, he holds that a shchiv mira doesn't have that kind of power that we just discussed.
No, he does have the power.
No, he could say, he can't say that I want to give him $100, and I don't give him anything, and the guy gets it. He has to be specific, according to Rav Papa.
Yeah, but that's for a different reason. Because we don't understand what his intention is. We don't understand his intention. His intention may not be what you think it means.
Right, what I'm saying, but what we just said before, that shchiv mira, whatever, you don't have to...
Yeah, whatever he says, it's transacted. It does go.
Right.
We're not retracting. The mana cover goes.
What?
The buried 100, wherever it is, belongs to the recipient. It is. We're not changing. The principle's in place. Whatever he intended is transferred immediately. But we're not sure what he intended to transfer. Was it any 100? Or was the 100 a specific 100 which is buried somewhere?
If the guy says, I want to leave 8 paintings to this guy.
Not leave. I want to give.
Give a painting to this guy, but he has 30 paintings in his house.
But he may have a painting. If he's a painting, one of the paintings in my house, no question.
No question.
That's like Zeh. He identified that painting in there. He says $100. You don't know. Maybe one of that 100 is buried somewhere. So that 100 belongs to the one who he wants to give it to. But the ones you're giving is that money he has no right to. We'll see. We'll see. Gemara, it's a question. Are we concerned? Are we concerned about mana cover? Are we concerned that he intended 100, but that 100 happens to be buried? Or we say it's so far-fetched, he meant give him 100. 100 of my assets means whichever 100 you choose. Okay? V'hilchsa l'kfur lo chayshinon. Although Rav says that I'm concerned, unless you identify it, you don't give it. Hilchsa kfur lo chayshinon. It's not something we're concerned about because it's such a remote thing. the presumption is when he said 100, he meant 100 that I have. He's not speaking about a specific 100. So if that's the case, it's not Rav and Shmuel.
This is money fungible. Give him 100. What does it matter? The coins are all fungible.
If that was his intent, that was his intent.
And today, when people say give 100, the man's got a wallet. And he's not thinking about a specific set of bills.
Okay.
Each bill has a number, right? Each bill is separately identifiable. We don't think that way.
See, in those days, when we're dealing with coins were very specific. Newly minted coins, worn coins, so everything was based on weight. Could be there was a difference. But I was saying even that may be the case. Look for lo chashinon. That's the halacha.
I mean, he's on his deathbed. They're saying to bury coins and not telling anybody where they are. That's useless.
The man's mind is not clear. He's not made clear. You're right.
Right.
Rav Papa. Now, so Rav Papa explains the Mishnah speaking of Shchiv Meirav. Rav Zid says the Mishnah is speaking about, right, Maimet Shloshim, a Borik. Now, what does each one say what he says and doesn't accept the other one's interpretation of the Mishnah? That's the question. Rav Papa, I tamil omaka Rav Zid. Why does Rav Papa say it's speaking of Shchiv Meirav? Why doesn't he concur with Rav Zid? It's speaking Manus Bori. It's Maimet Shloshim. Make it simple. Sovar. Rav Papa ki Omer Rav lo shno b'mi v'lo shno b'pikoden. Yeah. Now, we say if a woman borrows $100, $1,000, she still has the coins in her hand, and the husband says to her after she borrows the money, "Harei mukdeshesli," with the money that you have in your hand. She's saying mukdeshes. Why? Because muvalo tzonido. Because the moment she takes the money, right? If she borrows a chair, and after she borrows the chair, he says, "I want to marry with the chair that you have in your possession." She's mukadeshes. Why? Because the chair is the chair of the husband's. Now he's transferring the chair into her domain, so he's giving her the value of the chair. But the moment he lends her the money becomes her money. She becomes a debtor. That's muvalo tzonita. The money's meant to be spent, not to be. Those coins are not meant to be returned the same coins. So therefore, Rav Papa's opinion, when we say Maimet Shloshton, it doesn't make a difference whether it's Pikodon, or it's what, or it's Milveh, the money that's owed. So let's say the person in between, does he have to be in possession of the money, right? Let's say the one in between, he's a debtor. He says, the money that you owe me, give to him. We're not talking about specific coins, right? He has a lien on him. You owe me. It's a debt. Still, that transfers. It's as if the third party, he has the money. See, Pekodin, the Gemara says, by Pekodin, very interesting. The Gemara says, if a person goes and says, I gave you something, and then the man goes and he denies he has it. Kofet bi Pekodin. He denies that he's a custodian. Is he a thief immediately? He's a thief. Because you're withholding, since we say the item belongs to the owner regardless of where it is, and you're withholding it from the person, so therefore, kof bikon hareu gazlan. Withholding a person's money, you're a thief immediately. Where do you have a right to withhold his money? What happens if a person goes and says, you owe me $1,000? He said, I don't owe you $1,000. He's not a thief. He's denying, because he's not withholding money. He doesn't have any money. He has a debt. He has a lien, whatever it is. So I'm withholding your money. To be a gazlan, to be classified as a thief, you have to withhold the person's money. So therefore, kofet bikoden, if it's a bikoden, because wherever it is, it belongs to the owner. But if it's a debt, the owner owns nothing. It's just a debt. Therefore, denying it, you're not immediately a thief. You have to take a shvur. You take an oath that you don't owe it, then you become puzzle. Then you puzzle edus. But a kofet bikoden, the moment you deny you have the man's money, you're disqualified from it as a witness immediately. Because you assume the status of a gazlan. It's kofet bikoden gazlan. Okay? So there's a question over here. when they legislated law, Maimid Shloshton, does it have to be similar to a Pekudei? That was the case. You have a third party as a custodian, and then the owner says, in the presence of, I want that item to be the third party's. So we say the transfer takes place immediately. If the three are in one location, although the third party did not take possession, it transfers. But what's transferring? The item that exists that belongs to the one who's giving the order, it should transfer. But let's say that the creditor gives the order. The creditor, he doesn't own anything concrete. Right? He has a right of collection. It doesn't work. It doesn't transfer.
Right, if he says that somebody owes him money, he says, listen, you owe me $100, but I want you to pay that third guy the money you owe me. That does not work.
We'll see, Tosin says like this. Person sells a debt. Right? Person's a lender, and he sells the document to a third party. Okay? And then he takes the document, which has market value, and he marries a woman. Kedushin. So it was an argument whether she's Mekudeshes or not. Mochish Tarchov, is she Mekudeshes? What's the question? So the Gemara says, what happens? You buy the paper, but who's actually the lender? The lender is the person who sold the paper. When you sell paper, you sell the right to collect. To collect. So the third party has the right to collect. What happens if the original creditor now goes and waives the debt? Right? If there's a debt, you have a right to collect. But if he waives the debt, there's nothing to collect. So the Gemara has a shaila after he sells it.
What's he selling?
He can waive the debt.
Once he sells it,
What's he selling?
He's selling the right to collect. The right to collect. The man, when a man borrows, who's he indebted to? To the lender. So good. But what happens but what's the basis of the debt? Because the borrowing created that debt. But who was I obligated to? To the man who gave me the money. You will represent me to collect. But who's the money owed to? The money is owed to the original lender. So therefore, if the lender waives the debt, the third party cannot collect. So the Gemara says, what's the question? Is it somcha daita? The woman, when she takes that document, does she feel secure enough to enter into marriage? Say, look, you never know. What would be if the original creditor, he goes and he cancels the debt? I'm receiving nothing. So is she going to put herself in this questionable situation? Is she receiving something or not? And then she's going to go after him and get her money back or collect?
Rabbi, if you would say, to answer the question of how you would even say this, but if you would say that you sold the debt.
No, we're talking about the husband. Husband's the creditor. I want to get the case again. Husband's the creditor.
What about a husband? A man sells, is a lender, and he sells his notes.
Correct.
To say that the man still has the power to forgive the debts is a big question. I wouldn't know how that would work. But even if you would say such a thing, as a buyer of that piece of paper, I would say, if it were true that was the case, I would say, when you sell me this piece of paper, you are not irrevocably giving up that right to sell the debt. Because if you don't, I don't know what I've bought.
No, he can't sell the debt. Once he sells the debt, he can't sell it again.
No. I'm talking about the first transaction. This is the question that we're dealing with. But the man who sold the piece of paper, the original lender, still retains the right to forgive the debt.
Why?
If
Who's the money owed to? Who's the money owed to, factually?
If you would say such
I'm
a
asking
thing,
you a question.
No,
Sure.
I'm not dealing with that question. If you would say such a thing, just assume that you would say such a thing, which is a question in and of itself. If I were the buyer of a piece of paper, I would also require that man to give up that right.
You can't give it up.
You really can't give it up.
Cannot give it up? Because the reality is, no, because the reality is,
Right. You can give up any
no,
right.
you can't give it up. It's not possible to give it up. Factually, the money is owed to him.
Didn't work.
Factually, the money is owed to him. The borrower borrowed from me, didn't borrow from the third party. So good, you buy it with a guarantee. You borrow with a guarantee. It's reduced, whatever, because you may have to go after the man to get your money back.
You get your money back.
You'll get your money back. He'll get his money back. We're not saying he's not going to get his money back if he canceled the debt. But factually, the original borrower, he borrowed from Reuven, he didn't borrow from Shimon. So that is the basis why you have a right to collect. because the indebtedness that the borrower has to the original lender. When I sell it, I'm selling the right to collect, my right to collect. But what is the basis to that right to collect? Because the borrower was indebted to the first lender.
So then how would we ever worry? We have all these rabbinic laws about a piece of paper, an IOU, a document, that if it got lost, you ask the man, how did it ever come into your possession? You're trying to collect it. You want the original lender.
If I write, I owe you $1,000, so you owe him $1,000. So it's only these two parties, nobody else is in the picture.
So we've said, what happens if a man loses his document?
He loses,
He loses the loan document,
yeah, so,
and it lands up in somebody else's hands.
means
And that
nothing.
man tries to collect on the debt.
Can't collect with it. No, that's not the case. The case is, you lose a document, and the question is, did the borrower lose it, or did the lender lose it? Who do you return it to? So the lender, you can't return it to the lender because maybe the borrower lost it. So the debt's already paid. That's the whole discussion over there. Right, who lost the document? Because if the borrower lost it, that means the debt was satisfied. You have the right to return it to the lender. Okay? So now, what about if the transfer took place with Maimed Shloshton? If it took place with Maimed Shloshton, the original lender cannot cancel the debt any longer, because that's hefker bez nefker. One is I sell it. I can only sell my right. What is my right? My right is the right of collection. But the indebtedness is to the lender. So the lender is still the first party. But when Chazal caused the transfer, that's hefker bez nefker. That is the money itself. The indebtedness is transferred to the other person. Because they could cause it to be as if you were never indebted to the first person. So as a result of that, even if the lender would attempt to waive it, it means nothing. It's not, which even the indebtedness is not his. He's not indebted to him. It's as if he was never indebted to him.
He's not indebted to the other.
He's indebted to the third party now. Okay. So if a man would say, Harei Mukadeshes li, with the shtar which is given to you through Maimed Shloshen, should be Mukadeshes. The Gemara over there is only speaking about where he gave it. The lender gave a woman, he says, this loan document, which someone owes me, I'm marrying with that loan document. The husband could always pull the rug from under her, because he could always waive the debt.
So what about the concept of making the man who sells the loan document take a neder?
He
So
still
I
could.
will never, forgive the debt.
Okay. Look, the
So
woman.
now he's got a neder.
No, we're not. But let's see he does.
Tries his hand.
But let's see he does it. He does it.
He breaks his neder.
He breaks his net. The loan is waived, regardless. The woman doesn't feel comfortable. Doesn't feel secure enough to enter into a marriage where what she's receiving may not be. That's the discussion. And one man, the Yom says she's not worried about this. She doesn't think about this. Therefore, since it does have market value, as long as the debt is not forgiven, so she enters in it. The other one says, no, it's not so simple, because it could be waived. Okay? So we're saying now that the reason why Rav Papa prefers to say, it's speaking about, not prefers, chooses to say it's speaking of Shchimira and not Maimed Shloshton, because then you don't need most Sfurim, right? You don't have to say Mona Zeh, because it's Maimed Shloshton, there's no difference whether it's a Pekudei or it's a Milveh. Right, we'll come to understand when Rav said the money itself is what could be identified, it's in Maimed Shloshton. Rav Papa says no. If you have Maimed Shloshton, the money doesn't have to be identified, right? So what?
It doesn't work. Though, with the
It does. It does work. Rav Papa says it does work.
But it's not. But you don't have to identify. It's not identified.
So that means Rav. So how do we understand Rav?
Right, exactly.
So it must be Shchimira. So it must be Shchimira.
Or it can't.
Because Rav holds Monokavur.
Right, but it can't work with Maimed Shloshton. That's what he said. Rav Papa said it can't work with Maimed
What
Shloshton.
can't work with Maimed Shloshton?
You can't have because
Rav's case can't be Maimed Shloshton.
right because it's
Because you don't need it. You don't have to identify the money. That's why. Right. But Rav Zvid says you do have to identify it. Now, Rav Zvid, why did he reject the whole idea of what? Of Matna Shchimira. Right? Rav Zvid, my tam lo makarav papa, lo mesuk mastis b'shchimira. Mimai, why? Midiktoni ha'omet nu get zelishti. A man says, give that get to my wife. Ushtar shikr zel avdi, umes, lo yidn lachamisa. It says, after he passes away, you don't give it. Why? Because ain't get lachamisa. Time of the mess. Why don't you give it? Because he died. Homi chayim, nosnim. But the inference is, but if he'd be alive, you would give it. But why do you give it? Because he says, ting, give it. He gave the order. He didn't just say kisvu. He said tain. Let's say a regular bori would say kisvu get zel ishti. Are you permitted to give the get? No, he says it should be written. He didn't say it should be given. Right? But what about a person shchimera? He says kisvu get zel ishti. We say that because his mind is so distracted with dying, when it said kisvu he meant 10. The presumption is he meant it should be given. It should be written and given. But the Mishnah says he had to say tain. If he's a shchimira, why did the Mishnah have to say it's speaking where he said to tain, kisvu would have been enough. So evidently, if he had to say give the get, that means we're not speaking about a person who's on his deathbed. We're speaking about a bori. Because it didn't say, it would have told me the chiddush of kisvu. You have it.
Yeah, but why, just because it's new, can't we learn also? She says can't learn it's
because it's not necessary. Because it's not necessary
to. New works for everybody.
The new works for everybody, even for a bori. So if we're speaking specifically, it's a shchimira, and the only reason why is because it may be a monokovor, it may be a buried 100 somewhere else. So it should say kisvu, right? So it's clear what are we speaking about? We're speaking about a healthy person. It's only because he gave the order it should be given. That's the reason why I have a right to give the get. To be continued.